We're talking about that along with Hong Kong. That is our top story this hour, the Hong Kong election. Residents voting overwhelmingly in support of pro-democracy candidates overnight in Hong Kong, who won 85% of the seats up for re-election. The pro-government side netting just 13%. This as President Trump is considering signing a bill passed by the House of Representatives last week, which backs pro-democracy protesters. Joining me right now is the Hudson Institute Senior Fellow, Director of the Center for Chinese Strategy, Michael Pillsbury. And Michael, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Maria.
So give me your reaction first to the Hong Kong election last night. Pretty incredible that 70% of people came out to vote to try to push back on China's authoritarian rule.
It's very good news. It means that the sentiments for more autonomy and more democracy in Hong Kong can be channeled into election results. My fear was that the students would essentially stay home, boycott the elections, and not want to use the political process. That's wrong. I was wrong in my worry. And this now opens up a couple possibilities, Maria. One is that Carrie Lam could decide to step down and name a member of her cabinet to take her place. That's within the law of Hong Kong. Secondly, in the elections 2 years from now, when the next chief executive will be chosen, probably somebody who's a little bit less wooden than Carrie Lam will be selected, somebody more in touch with the political currents in Hong Kong. So both of those are, I think, good news for our own outlook.
Well, really interesting to note that the Senate's legislation, the Senate bill passed the House overwhelmingly, where the U.S. will tie China's behavior in Hong Kong to ongoing trade business with the United States. Will the president sign that into law? What do you think?
I don't know. I was watching carefully his comments over the weekend. He still refers to President Xi Jinping as his friend and a great guy. He's all along, the Secretary Pompeo as well, have been for nonviolent demonstrations. That's the same position Beijing takes. Nonviolent demonstrations in Hong Kong are okay, or even a good thing. So if he doesn't sign it, it still becomes law after 10 days. He's got the break that the recess the Congress is on now, plus another 10 days before he decides to sign it. He could, as a gesture to Xi Jinping, not sign it or look like he's dragging his feet to help President Xi Jinping. I think we're in the final stage now, whether this first phase is going to work or not. I'm kind of pessimistic. I think the president still likes to be called tariff man. I think the idea of putting tariffs back on at a much higher level still exists. So I'm not complacent that we have the final goal in sight. I think there's still some major concessions China has to make.
Right, and I think I've been pointing out to our audience, don't forget when you hear these things like, oh, the U.S. is considering taking tariffs off or not implementing the tariffs that are set to go into effect December 15th. Remember where that's coming from. Last week it was the South China Morning Post, which was acquired by Alibaba, Jack Ma, who is a admitted communist. So let's remember where some of this info is coming from. Having said that, Michael, this morning we have news that China officials say that they will raise penalties on intellectual property theft. They will look into lowering punishment thresholds. So what do you think about that? I spoke with Peter Navarro on Sunday Morning Futures yesterday, the president's assistant to trade and manufacturing policy, about the false marketing from China finding its way into U.S. homes. Watch this. A lot of these counterfeit products are coming from China, right, Peter?
Well, you go on a platform like Amazon, it connects you to a website over in China, and the next thing you know, you've got a counterfeit good. Apple estimates that about over 90% of the stuff that's bought online that has an Apple brand is counterfeit if it's not from the Apple source.
The president is cracking down on counterfeits. Peter Navarro wrote an op-ed at FoxNews.com for our audience to go check out. But, Michael, what about this? How much truth should we expect from all of this? Is China really getting tough on IP theft? Will the president really consider not putting tariff increases into effect? What's your take?
I think tariff increases are still possible. I think it's a step forward that China wants to raise the penalties on IP theft. The only thing is they first floated that last summer, and they said they already had a law they were going to pass to do just that. The penalties are really quite small, Maria. In some cases, if a company loses a case, a foreign company sues a Chinese company for property theft, the penalty you might think would be large. No, it's as low as $5,000. So they have to go a long way beyond what they've already announced to really appease the president's concern with intellectual property theft.
Well, I mean, isn't it true, though, that if the president were to sign that bill into law, the Chinese say we will retaliate? So, I mean, you know, this is a high-stakes game right here.
That's right. I agree. Don't forget, they could also walk out of the talks. On Friday, their main negotiator published a long 6,000-word article. Liu He is supposed to be a reformer and for the market. He really stressed he wants state control to continue, state subsidies to continue for China's state-owned enterprises, which already have surpassed us, you know, on the Fortune 500 by capitalization list. Chinese companies now are more numerous than American companies. They also have more billionaires. Their growth rate is 3 times faster than us. So China is feeling its oats right now. It feels very strong. They had Henry Kissinger over on Friday with Gary Cohn and Hank Paulson. They all got messages to tell President Trump not to do anything, to end the talks now and pull back the tariffs. I don't think President Trump's going to pull back the tariffs without really serious concessions from China. As you mentioned, Maria, there's a false report on this about a month ago. A White House official, still unknown, said, oh, yes, the first phase will definitely have a major rollback in tariffs. The president himself said that was false reporting, and he had not made such an agreement. So we have to be careful who we're listening to now in terms of where the trade talks are.
Yeah, which is why I pointed out that Alibaba owns the South China Morning Post last week.
Yes.
But isn't it interesting
But the
that
New York Times also ran the story, along with Reuters and the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
It wasn't just South China Morning Post.
But it came
They
from
were wrong.
But it came from the South China Morning Post, right?
No, it came from the White House, an anonymous White House official. I myself, Maria, called around 4 different newspapers and said, don't run this. I understand from the White House it's not true. Each of the 4 reporters told me, no, I have this on deep background from a White House official. Peter Navarro then went on the air and said it's not true.
Right.
The president the next day backed up Peter Navarro, said it's not true. But that White House official is still unknown, who briefed the 4 American newspapers that there was a rollback of the tariffs deal as part of the first phase. It's really bad reporting.
Wow. Okay. So there's somebody within the White House who wants to see this deal and is putting things out there in the media, because I thought that the Chinese were doing that. Isn't it interesting that the Chinese get Hank Paulson, you know, and Gary Cohn,
Dr. Kissinger and Gary Cohn.
and Henry Kissinger to go and listen to that speech by the Chinese leadership? What do you mean? That was a real symbol as well.
Well, all funded by Bloomberg's so-called Economic Forum. So you have, I try to empathize with the Chinese point of view. They are thinking that we've got these very prestigious Americans, Hank Paulson, Henry Kissinger, Mike Bloomberg. They think Joe Biden is their friend. Why not just hold on until the elections a year from now? Then there'll be much less pressure from the Americans. This is always something the Chinese have to consider. Shall we just wait a year and we'll be rid of President Trump? And frankly, these impeachment hearings have really fed that point of view in China, that we're dealing with a weak president, let's just wait a year. I think the Chinese are wrong to think that, but we can't miss the articles in the Chinese press that talk about this.
Yeah, really interesting. So, Michael, do you think we'll get a deal?
Ultimately, yes. The Chinese are, as the president says, Chinese are desperate for a deal. They're hurting. But the question is, Maria, will the president have to raise the tariffs even higher? He used the term substantially higher tariffs just 2 weeks ago if the Chinese don't make further concessions.
All right. He's standing tough there. Mike Pillsbury, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much, sir.